So I'm hoping that you all got a bookmark, because if you didn't, we still have more, and we will be getting more. And now the question is, how many times have you looked at that bookmark? Because I'm going to ask you, what's our annual theme?
Deepening our spiritual connection.
Beautiful. Deepening our spiritual connection. Thank you, Drania. So, how do you know if you're spiritually growing and deepening your connection? How do you know that? It'll outpicture itself in your life. Very good. Things come up to challenge you. Meaning if there's an area to heal, it will show up. And then the question is, are you going to call yourself into that deepening spiritual connection, right? Because stuff can come up, just like in the United States, and we're just stirring it around, right? But the question is, how do you rise to that challenge? Yes?
Fewer irritating interruptions when you're meditating.
Okay. In other words, a sense of peace moves through you, because as you're being present and meditating, you can feel a more open space where there's not this
Peace or command.
beautiful.
Focus on the tools.
Okay?
You're happier.
You're happier. And why would that be?
Peace.
Because you're more deeply connected to that which is the truth of your being, rather than letting the stuff in your life get in the way of your vision. So, how do you know when you're stagnant? Chaos, things aren't working well, you just feel like you're like, how come things aren't working right now? Everything is being staccato. It's not flowing, right? Yes? So, one of the things I'm going to throw out to you, if you're not already journaling, you might consider, even, and some would say, even if it's just once a month, putting your finger on the wire and saying, where is my life? How is it going? How am I feeling? What are the things that are happening? Am I being challenged? Am I doing my spiritual practice? And by the way, that's always like this, yes? Hopefully you don't berate yourself thinking you should have learned that by now. Part of that monkey mind you want to get rid of right out of the gate, right? And I say that because what if there was a way, a method, not just spiritually proven, but now scientifically proven to help you spiritually grow? What would it be worth to you? Priceless. We have 4 practitioner students who are putting their money where their mouth is. And for those of you that have been through Science of Mind classes here at the center, as Leanne mentioned, challenges may show up. Because you're calling yourself to the invitation to grow, to deepen. And the reason why I ask about money, not so much that money in itself is important, but it shows commitment. Does that make sense? And it also shows value. So I'm going to ask you, some of you said priceless, but I'm going to ask you to make a mental note of some number, some value, that if there was a way scientifically proven to help you spiritually grow, how much would you be willing to pay? Take a mental note, see it clearly in your mind. Again, put it in a journal or a letter to yourself. And if you choose to take in the lessons, the books, and engage in practice and community, because together we rise up based on the vibration continuing to move. Being a part of a community supports you and supports that vibration moving up. And you'll see yourself move to higher ground. And I just want you to use your conscious mind your intention, and your commitment. So write it down. So our bookmark is based monthly themes on the lessons, the lessons themselves based on our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who gave a sermon by the sea in 1959 at a CLMR. And so February's theme is spiritual equilibrium with community, family, and society. And really, I'm going to stick country in there. And my lesson title is Love is the Elixir to Spiritual Equilibrium. Love is the elixir to spiritual equilibrium. Ernest Holmes, this is part of his Sermon by the Sea, says, "Find me someone who has given all that he has to love, without morbidity, and I will have found the lover of my soul." Why? Because he will have revealed to me the nature of God and proved to me the possibility of all human souls. Beautiful and powerful. So I'm going to repeat that. Find me someone who has given all that he has to love without morbidity. And I kept thinking to myself, what do you mean without morbidity? What are you really trying to say there? And after contemplation, realizing it doesn't mean that you're a martyr. It doesn't mean you're giving yourself for love and then exasperating yourself. Because unconditional love, the love that we're talking about, not the human love with ego and judgment and all this, we're talking about a higher love, the unconditional love that flows like when you breathe. Nobody asks you to pay for that. To live, nobody asks you to pay for that. In other words, find me someone who has given all that he has to love, that is not restricted and does not take from, but it's just a fountain that continues to give and give and give and give. Perfectly lined up with the love of who we truly are. The second half is because he will have revealed to me the nature of God and proved to me the possibility of all human souls. And when we run into those challenges, that's when we're called to love. I love synchronicity. God just put an exclamation point on that. I love it. So I'll give you a simple example. My parents live in the Central Valley, and my brother and I and my family have a unique opportunity based on where they live to take up something. And pretty soon, before we know it, we were just talking about the business, and I was like, yeah, this isn't feeling good. And I realized even for myself, oh yeah, Kathy, first bring yourself back to love, and then speak to that love in this conversation. Felt a whole lot better. In this country, tit for tat, revenge. I'll get you back. You know, at one point I know there was a big discussion about whether we should still have "in God we trust" on our money. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe people have been burned by the word God. So I'll use the word higher power. Because really what we're talking about here is that we've gotten down into the bottom of that V. So that circle right there is the science of mind symbol. And the big circle means unlimited possibilities. The love of God, the peace, the power, the beauty, the joy, the life, the harmony. All of that is unlimited possibility and truth. And as you go down that V, we have all of that in each one of us. But we are a unique expression of that. maybe I emphasize love, but you emphasize peace. And based on your experience, you emphasize joy. And you got called to a health challenge, and now you understand more about perfect health. And you got called to have joy in your life because you have an incident of depression. In other words, every challenge that you have is a call to you to go back to the infinite possibility and to individualize a greater truth. And if we keep our mind on that, then what happens over time, moving our mind and our heart, we demonstrate in our life more synchronicity, more joy, more happiness. But what's happening here, the way I'd like to see it, is at the bottom of that V, that's where the United States is stuck right now. Yeah. We've forgotten our purpose. We've forgotten why we're here for everybody. And we can each emphasize different aspects of that. Truth, freedom, liberty, justice. But it was a divine idea that came together with our founding fathers and mothers too. They just weren't recognized. And when we can come back to the truth, you will change the energy and the outcome of the situation. But that means you have to have trained yourself, which takes practice, to bring yourself back to the truth in any situation that feels ugh, including whatever anybody's feeling right now. It's not about taking sides. I'm not interested in bipartisanship. I'm interested in us coming back to the truth of the intentions of where we started. Because when we open back up to the top, open at the top, going back to what we know to be the truth, we tap into a new way of thinking. What is that? I don't know. It's different for each one of us. But when you tap back into the larger possibility, you are opened up to new ways of thinking, to new energy, to new possibilities. That's what we're talking about here. Because he will have revealed to me the nature of God and proved to me the possibility of all human souls. So my lesson title, Love is the Elixir to Spiritual Equilibrium. What's an elixir? Yes, and a magical or medicinal potion. An equilibrium is a state of physical balance or a calm state of mind. So when you have your equilibrium, you're more prepared for things, right? You have better balance. Love is the elixir to spiritual equilibrium. Bring yourself back to love. What if we constantly invoked love in our thinking every day? How about on your smartphone, every hour you set the alarm, and when you hear the alarm, the alarm will remind you, oh yes, my intention here is to love. What if you just did that? What if every conversation we remembered first to speak to the intention of love? Do you think that would change conversations? What if every decision we made was with the intention to love? All right, you're talking to Kathy. Love my books, right, Connie? Missing my flip chart. So our first book, Happiness is the Way, really easy book to read for January. For February, our book of the month is Mind to Matter. Not mind over matter, mind to matter. And how many of you have actually heard by raise of hands, the Heart Math Institute, the Heart Math Solution? Yes. And if you haven't, I highly recommend going to their website. So I'm going to speak to these books about the power of understanding the heart, the power that is within the heart. So the HeartMath Institute has studied what they're calling heart intelligence. When subjects focus in the heart area, when people who are being studied focus on the heart area, they activate a core heart feeling. Could be love, could be appreciation, could be care. And they're proving that this focus immediately shifts their heart rhythms. Love, the elixir, the medicinal potion. When the rhythms become more coherent, that is in alignment with each other and not, all over the place, a cascade of neural and biochemical events begin that affect virtually every organ in the body. The balance between the autonomic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system is enhanced to work together with increased efficiency in the body. And if you're not a biologist, it's like, what does that mean, Kathy? Increased immunity, decreased stress, decreased heart rate, blood pressure, cholesterol, and facilitates better brain function. Yes, Kat?
And I will say from personal experience, it's HeartMath saved my life.
Beautiful. And we've talked about that we're going to have a session on that March 14th. I want to line you up for that. And Kat has a lot of experience going deep with HeartMath.
In process to become a facilitator.
Beautiful. We bless you and know you and want that more here. Now, what I'm telling you is we're turning the faith into science. Did Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and others understand these principles? Yes. It's just the language today tends to be, give me more science. Prove it to me. We live in a time where science is backing the science of mind, our philosophy, more than ever before. And I believe Ernest Holmes is dancing on the clouds in heaven. Because he said when he started back in the 1940s, I believe science and faith will come together. So love is the elixir in our body. And once it moves our body, it moves our heart and moves our mind for a better brain function. Now, heart intelligence becomes a little more direct knowing versus brain intelligence. So brain intelligence is collect the info, organize it, categorize it, logical, rational collection. And frequently we get stuck in that. But the heart intelligence is more of that intuition, which is a knowing that's just like, I feel it in my gut. This feels great. This doesn't feel so good. And it's not necessarily the rational, deductive mind. So, in the book, Mind to Matter, I got to tell you, I love this book. The astonishing science of how your brain creates material reality. This book is where metaphysics, which is philosophically where we are, meets science. And I have to read the author's thing. He says, I have never perceived science and metaphysics as separate and have been delighted in being both a mystic and a scientific researcher. And when I bring the rigor of science to the questions of consciousness, each illumines the other. It reviews the studies that show step by step exactly how our minds create material form. The science turns out to be even more astonishing than the metaphysics. Do I need to say anything more for those of you who have known science of mind for a while? But I am going to say more. So how many of you know Joe Dispenza? Okay, a doctor, metaphysics. And This is a quote from him: with every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every event you experience, you're acting as an epigenetic engineer of your own cells. In other words, you may have DNA that might be a blueprint, but just because the architect created a blueprint doesn't mean that's what the engineer built in your house, right? Same thing. You may have DNA, but it's just a blueprint. You can enact the blueprint or not. And so Dr. Joe Dispenza says, so this raises a question. If your environment changes and you then program new genes in new ways, is it possible, based on your perceptions and beliefs, to program the gene ahead of the actual environment? Feelings and emotions are normally the end products of experiences, but you can combine a clear intention with an emotion that begins to give the body a sampling of the future experience before it's been made manifest. And then ultimately he goes on to say, then you won't be living in your past. You'll be creating your future. So I explained a little bit of the science of mind symbol. And if you take some of the science of mind courses and follow our philosophy, we talk about planting our thoughts, which are seeds, into the creative medium, the soul, and the soil, and then things demonstrate in our life. So what we need to know is how to practice our spiritual belief, our spiritual principles. And can you name some spiritual principles? Come on, practitioner students.
God is all there is.
God is all there is.
God is everywhere present.
God is in and through and as all things.
God is all knowing.
God is all knowing. What you truly believe, you see in your world.
I'm a part of that God.
And you are a part of that God, and every piece of it is in you, like a hologram. You may be an individualized expression, but all parts of God are within you.
God is the center whose circumference is
I'm trying to remember how that's stated. Yeah.
Translated better.
The center is everywhere, and the circumference is nowhere. God is at the center of everything, and the circumference is nowhere. Everywhere.
God is infinite.
Yes, God is infinite and unlimited possibilities.
That which I believe attracts more of the same.
That which you believe attracts more of the same. I am that I am. Anything you can dream, you can achieve. I am that I am. So there's hundreds of these things, and you pluck them from the Science of Mind textbook, or again, being in this community as we speak with each other. The truth of being is a perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. Spirit is self-conscious, chooses, and is creative. Body is the thought in form. Truth is known and is demonstrated. I would love that one some more right now. God as love is the giver. And then God as law is also the doer. So when you're a part of the Science of Mind philosophy, we are hoping to move your mind and your heart into aligning into these beliefs. So that, again, all false beliefs of who you are, maybe when you were younger, somebody told you that you weren't smart enough, you weren't good enough, you weren't bright enough, you weren't pretty enough, you weren't whatever. You know, that went into your subconscious mind. Because as a kid, you didn't know you had the power to say that's not true. But with the Science of Mind and what we're learning here, you can supplant that seed by simply planting a new seed. But it will take your heart power to do that, not just your mind. Your heart power in coordination with your mind. So on page 10, your everyday superpower. This is the everyday superpower that you possess, second by second. You're changing your brain by the way you use your mind. The consciousness of your mind is becoming the cells of the matter of your brain. I'm going to put a few of these pieces together. Page 209. The ability to use intention, to affect molecular matter isn't a superhuman anomaly. It's something a trained and coherent mind can easily accomplish. A trained mind is more powerful than an untrained mind. Quantum physics is demonstrating that consciousness is influenced the material of the world around us every day. So, you want to bring yourself into having a coherent mind. What does that mean? The difference between incoherent light is like an incandescent light bulb. You turn on the light bulb and it's sort of a cloud of light because light rays are going everywhere. And the power of an organized light in the form of a laser can literally cut through steel. So it is with our thoughts. When we let our monkey mind just do whatever it wants day in and day out, and we have this untrained mind, it's like the incandescent light bulb. You're still light. You still got lots of things that you're out there, again, changing matter with. But even in the book, he's got examples of people telling their stories about how they aligned their mind to become coherent and focused on their intention and how things changed. Health, finding things, situations, etc. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where to cut this off because it's just so good. On page 210, he basically says, think deliberately. Think deliberately. On the Elixir of Love, that's my edition. Think deliberately on the Elixir of Love. Use this remarkable gift of consciousness to direct your thoughts rather than being pushed around by your local reality of what you think you're seeing. Do that in relationship. It's, it takes practice. So, again, I want to imprint in your mind, love is the elixir to spiritual equilibrium. Reading this book, reading The Science of Mind, reading materials that bring your mind into making yourself aware of what intention you want in your life, and bringing your alignment of yourself. And again, just because you think it once doesn't mean that you have used your heart power, doesn't mean that you've exercised that enough. But you can move yourself into that space, and that's what spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer, does. If you spend the time to deepen with it. I know it. Yeah, I know it. Do I know it? That's the question. The consciousness of your mind is becoming the cells of the matter of your brain. So the last part of the Sermon by the Sea says, your human incarnation is the invitation to your spirituality. We are coming into divine consciousness, a community where individuals commune into unity and where unity touches individuality, and yet individuality touches unity. So I say, deepen your connection to spirit. Use these tools and these laws, and you shall live on higher ground. Namaste. I'm going to ask Catherine to come up and share another song, and then before we do the offertory, I'm going to be doing two other things, okay?